Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth Vezina and I'm the Fisheries Engagement and Field Program Lead for the Canadian Wildlife Federation. Today I'm going to give a brief update on the Canned Fish Gear Lending Program, and content from this talk can be shared via social media. So as we know, large areas are being closed to traditional fishing in Canada to mitigate entanglement threat to North Atlantic right whales. As I presented last year, CWF has developed a gear lending program to provide on-demand fishing gear to harvesters who are impacted by closures to allow them to continue fishing. The way the program works is we provide a gear recommendation and free access to fish harvesters who are impacted by closures. We place those harvesters on a scientific license so that they're legally allowed to fish the gear, and we provide at-sea training and ongoing support for them in using the gear. We also get them to do some data collection for us and conduct follow-up surveys with them to see how the gear is working for them. And at the end of the season, we collect the gear, maintain it, and put it in our inventory to be used in the next closure or fishery. Currently, our inventory has about 175 units to be lent, which allows us to assist just under 40 harvesters at a time. So we started this program last year when there were many closures that happened early on in the season in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. So there was a large demand for use of our program. Unfortunately, because it was just getting started, we were only able to help 10 fish harvesters at the time, but that allowed us to remove 500 buoy lines from the fishery, and more than 370,000 pounds of snow crab was caught. We also made a lot of good connections and inroads with fisheries associations in the region who showed interest in using the program in future years. Fast forward to this year, things looked much different. We'll first talk about Crab Fishing Area 12, which opens in April and closes at the end of June. So the whales were much later coming to Canada, and therefore many of the snow crab harvesters were able to catch their quota and get off the water before the whales arrived, which was really great. Nonetheless, there was a lot of interest in our program. We had 47 harvesters sign up to use the gear just in case they needed it. And we had collaborations with a group in Gaspé and PEI as well. Now in mid-July, CFA 19 experienced a closure for the first time. Their closure was announced on the first day of their season. Now this fishery is quite a bit different from CFA 12. They have a much lower total allowable catch, and their catch rates are very high, so most harvesters are able to catch their quota within 8 to 10 hauls, sometimes fewer. So we did loan gear to 3 harvesters in this area. One of them was able to catch his quota before he actually got the gear in the water, but 2 of them ended up fishing with it, with just over 3,800 pounds of snow crab caught with 2 to 5 pot trawls. This year was also unique in that we had the first closures that impacted inshore lobster fisheries. So I'll draw your attention to LFA 25, 23D, and 24. So in May, we had closures in LFAs 23 and LFA 24, and we had a seasonal closure in LFA 25. Implementing on-demand gear in this fishery is a bit different because it's not a quota-based fishery, but rather a competitive fishery. So we've been working closely with the fisheries associations in the region to try to figure out how to equitably distribute gear when harvesters are impacted by closures. So we have had interest in these areas in using the gear, but haven't had any go in the water just yet. So looking forward, there are several focuses for us in the coming year. The fisheries general regulations were recently amended to allow fishing without a surface marker when allowed via license conditions. So this is a positive step toward allowing on-demand fishing on a more broad scale. And we're working with DFO on what this might look like for our program in the coming year. There are still several pieces that we need to continue to focus on in broadening the reach of on-demand fishing. We're making efforts to work more closely with fisheries enforcement to ensure they have the tools and training required to monitor the on-demand fishery effectively. We continue to hear from fish harvesters that a major criticism of on-demand fishing is the inability to locate their gear on the seafloor in real time and to see different systems that are being fished in the same area. So there are several initiatives that we're an active partner on that you'll hear about at this consortium that is working to address this issue. We continue to test and evaluate gear in our trial program, and we are seeing improvements in several of the systems. So we'll be working on adding inventory to the canned fish program as funding allows and as we gain confidence in some of these other systems and their suitability for fisheries. As always, I'd like to thank our funders and a special thanks to our fish harvester partners who take part in this program, and of course to the marine field team who puts the work in on this. Thanks, and I look forward to chatting at the consortium.